So I bought this shirt at JCPenney's for like $3.99 and I'm scared it makes me look like I'm in middle school. Do I look like I'm in middle school with this shirt? I mean, it was just like $2.99, so I don't know. What's up, everybody? It's me, Troy, and I'm back again with another video. I want to say thanks to everybody who commented, liked, or subscribed to any of my previous videos. I always say that, like, look, I live in a state of gratitude. I am thankful for every click, every comment, hell, I don't know, every little thing that comes along my way as it regards to what I'm doing now, booktube and vlogging. This is my last books that I read over the summer, because summer doesn't officially end until September 22nd, so I have enough time, right? Right. Of course I do. So I'm going to try to keep this video short. As always, I'll link my blog post in relation to the book somewhere on this box. My ass just needs to get together one of these days. So that first book is The Crazed. I almost said bap, bap, bap. No, I'm just before I get into the plot, I want to talk about the historical event related to this book. It's actually what the book arrived to toward the end. If you are familiar with the June 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre that took place in Beijing, China, then you probably know that it was basically a demonstration event where Chinese students and scholars came to that Tiananmen Square to protest for pro-democratic change within their country. They were basically sick and tired of like the influences left over from the Cultural Revolution. They were tired of communist China, and they were tired of different reforms that the government was creating. So they decided to protest against these things. And what happened was the Chinese government ended up sending in the military to stop these demonstrators from doing their demonstrations and their protests. And essentially that ended up being a massacre. So a lot of students were murdered in the process of all of that. What Ha Jin does in The Crazed is he sort of illustrates and tells the story of one particular grad student named John Wan. I'm saying his name right. I'm 100% sure I'm saying his name wrong because I sound like I'm saying John Wayne, and he is Chinese and his name is not John Wayne. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Ha Jin is using this character to try to illustrate to the reader what someone who would have been a protester during that time was, you know, thinking and contemplating during that period. And I really have to say that I love this book. I think the catalyst to what made this character start to move into being someone who thinks about pro-democratic change as opposed to being someone who is probably trying to be comfortable and settle with the idea that he was just a Chinese scholar and there was nothing else he can do for his country. With that, his mentor, Professor Yang, suffered from a stroke. What happened was when Professor Yang suffered from a stroke, the main protagonist in this book ended up watching over him at night in the hospital, and the professor would constantly wake up in the middle of the night screaming all of these like political propagandas and about reforms in China's future, just going crazy, really. But he's talking crazy, but it's actually not crazy because the main character begins to listen to these words and he realizes in reflection that maybe it's best for him to step forward and be someone who's more active in the change of China, as opposed to being someone like his professor who has settled with the thought that there was nothing he can do to change China, so he just decided to be a scholar and basically have China pretty much step on all of his ideas as it concerns to being influenced by Western culture. The next book that I managed to read was Martha Grimes' Hotel Paradise. Oh, these things hurt. I just have to say, my sister had a procedure during the early months of July, and I took this book with me. I just kind of like picked it off the shelf. Child, I had my tote bag, I had my candy in it, I had my coffee, I had my Kindle, I had my headphones, I had all of my stuff in my tote bag because I was not trying to be sitting in a waiting room while this girl had this procedure, and I ain't got nothing to look at but people talking to me across the room, or the news setting up in the news playing on the TV setting up in the corner of the room. I was not gonna do all that, and I absolutely love this book. It's my first reading of Martha Grimes. She's an American mystery writer, but she's best known for her mystery series that takes place actually in England. Martha Grimes' Hotel Paradise is the first book of her Emma Graham mystery series, and really is not even a mystery series per se, because there's no defined murder, investigation, and then conclusion as it relates to who the culprit was. It doesn't go in that format. It's pretty much an open, wide mystery, I want to say, but that even isn't the right terminology for it. Immigram is a 12-year-old girl who uses her wits, I want to say. You know that term, you say the precocious child. Well, she was precocious as hell, but it was precocious in a good way because I was feeling what she was doing. She was going around the whole town and around the hotel, just basically trying to gather up clues related to this murder that happened 40 years ago. And she does not solve it. The mystery actually expands to the next couple of books in the series, and I just gotta say that I really do recommend this book. It is kind of a slow read, but for me, what grabbed me and hooked me to this was Emma's voice. Emma's voice was just very clear. She was very concise. She just reminded me so much of myself as a 12-year-old, because I remember when we were 12, there was over at my best friend's house next door, there was like a man who died in the house, and we would just jump the fence, child. We would jump the fence and go look through his windows, and we would jump the fence and go to his shed in the back. We found his obituary in the back and his typewriter. We was Immigram back in the day. So now that I got all the contemporary Chinese society fiction out of the way in Ha Jin, and I got Martha Grimes, my first reading of Martha Grimes out the way, which I'm so happy that I went to Book Outlet and they had the next 3 books in that series. I moved on to more speculative fiction, which is me catching up basically with Max Gladstone. This is Two Serpents Rise. It's the 2nd book in his craft sequence series. It took me a minute to pick this book up because it came out in October, but I was like, if you ain't gonna put the black girl in there from the first book, then I'm really not trying to read your series, because that's why I picked up your first book. Nonetheless, this was a really good book. I will say that. I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, because me and a video camera and talking about exposition and world building inside of a speculative fiction novel is, child, we'll be here all day. Like, that just ain't gonna work with my ass right now. Like, I just can't sit in front of this light and talk about that subject. It just, forget it. The 3rd book, which came out in July in the series, which was Max Gladstone's Full Phantom 5. Now, this was a really slow read for me. It's one of those books that you can pick up and pick down, put down, and pick back up. And it was just like, child, whatever. Like, we just gonna take our time and read this book. But I really want to say Max Gladstone is very, 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 very good at adding different types of characters to his stories, considering that he writes speculative or sci-fi fiction. I don't really even want to use that term, but I guess that's what you're supposed to use. I don't know. But what I mean by that is that he actually uses a trans woman to tell most of the story in this book. So the Asian woman on the cover, she's actually a trans woman, so that's pretty cool. The problem that I had with that being that a trans woman was telling that story is that for somebody who actually knows people who identify as trans, there's so much more you can say. I had an issue with the fact that he put this character in this book, and while it is great that he didn't elaborate so much or make her what she identifies as such a key point to the story, I would have liked it more if there was just a little bit more indicating how she got to that point within a fantasy novel, if you know what I mean. And last but not least, I read From the Beginning to the End by Josephine Brooks Clark. She's actually a friend of mine. I used to work with her. She moved away to California like a year and a half ago, and I remember when we were at work, she was like, I got me a computer file, and on that computer file it got my book on it, and I'm gonna write my book and I'm gonna publish it. And a year and a half later, she certainly done that. So congratulations, Miss Josephine. This is basically a memoir of her life with her husband, who passed away in 2006, and it's really just her trying to tell the story that she had with him, and how that it can be used as an inspiration towards other people who are dealing with people who are dying of an illness and who are slowly passing away, and how you can lift yourself up. So this is very inspirational memoir, and I'm gonna put a link somewhere where I actually interviewed her. So that's all that I have for you guys for today. I'm sorry that I didn't go into too many details about some of these books. Like I said, I can't even front. If I can't talk about it like the way I want to, but I've already written it down and everything, just go click to where I've written it down, because that's where I got everything out already at this point. And I will say that I appreciate you guys. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and I guess I'll see y'all later.